Good morning. You're watching Business World Live. I'm Jess De Los Santos. It's the start of a new trading day, but first, let's go straight to our top story. The death toll from Typhoon Odette has climbed to 375. That's according to the latest data from the PNP. Central Visayas recorded the highest number of fatalities at 170, followed by Caraga region with 167. 56 other people are still missing, while more than 500 individuals were injured. The NDRRMC is reporting a much lower death toll of 156 and missing persons at 37 as the agency continues to verify most of the reported casualties. Meanwhile, damage to infrastructure is now pegged at 225 million pesos. That's according to NDRRMC data. The latest NDRRMC situation report also shows that damage to agriculture has reached nearly 163 million pesos, while the DA is reporting a higher amount at 362 million pesos. The national government vowed to allot 2 billion pesos for provinces battered by Typhoon Odette. Though the extent of Odette's damage is yet to be assessed, President Duterte already ordered that 2 billion pesos be allotted for recovery efforts following his aerial inspection of the typhoon's trail of destruction. But the chief executive said pandemic funds are already depleted. But the chief executive said funds already depleted calamity funds. The Department of Agriculture has likewise allotted 445 million pesos to assist farmers and fisherfolk. But according to Duterte, the priority right now is to provide basic needs to affected families such as food and water. Meanwhile, the Philippines has secured a 14 billion peso loan agreement with France's development agency to augment our disaster response. The fund will be used to build local government capacity and to support ongoing reform programs that take into account public health emergency concerns. The project aims to boost local community resilience to disasters as well as cut emergency response times to improve recovery efficiency. Okay, time now to check how the local markets is doing 3 minutes into the trading day. Well, we're still starting off on a low note here with the PSCI extending its decline for a second day, at least so far at the start of the trading session. You have the index down 0.3% here at 7,213. Recall, of course, that on Monday shares fluctuated 0.8%. This is sentiments weakened over the severe damage caused by Typhoon Odette. More reports coming in about that. Again, casualty count at least is at 300 based on official data from the Philippine National Police. Much lower figures there from the NDRRMC. Crop damage, according to the DA, already at 300 million pesos. Adding to worries, of course, is the detection of the third case of the Omicron variant. Japet Anchanko Full Stock says we joined regional peers yesterday in the plunge over fears that the Omicron variant will disrupt global economic recovery. Again, you have the index so far, at least in the trading day, down 0.3%. Let's move in. Let's move over this time around to one of the stocks that we are watching this morning. That's going to be AC Energy. This is the power stock and its unit, Ace Endeavor, purchased 82,500 common shares from Nature's Renewable Energy Development Corporation, or NAREDCO. That's for 8.25 million pesos, with each share valued at 100 pesos per share. Funds raised will be used by NAREDCO to finance the 200 megawatt Lalo solar power project in Cagayan. Looking at how ASEN is doing so far today, you have the stock joining the sell-off down 1.1% at 10 pesos and 62 centavos a share. Let's see how ASEN is doing compared to the rest of the main index here. Again, you have the decliners beating advancers so far today in the session. Pure Gold still one of our outperformers today, up 1.6%. The stock also one of our winners in yesterday's trade here. Boyd's Power also up by 0.8%, but really it's the decliners here that's making a bit of a worrying picture here for the main index converge down 1.9%. BDO and Ayala Corporation also starting the day in the red, down by as much as 1.3%. This is BDO targets to raise 5 billion pesos through peso denominated sustainability bonds. Now, outside the main index, we're also looking at one particular stock here. We're talking about water concessionaire Manila Water. They are at least they have inked a third deal with the MWSS. That's on the revised concession that they signed back in March. The new agreement moves the effectivity date of the new contract to February 16. That's from its supposed start date in December 18. This will allow the stakeholders to have more time to fulfill the remaining conditions of the contract. However, as you can see right here, Manila Water joining the rest of the stock market, declining today by 0.2% to 24 pesos and 90 centavos a piece. Here are other headlines we're keeping our eyes on. The government will no longer pursue the Pasig River Marikina Basin Dam project. This, as a similar project, would instead be initiated by the private sector. In its implementation report of a $2.73 million grant on flood management in the Greater Metro Manila area, the World Bank said the studies and designs for the project were already achieved despite delays caused by the pandemic. However, the global lender said that long-term development outcome for flood control and management of the dam may not be fully realized. The loan for the project was initially approved in 2014 and came into effect in 2015. The original closing date of January 2017 was extended, and the project closed last June. The DPWH said that the proposed dam is similar to the project under the MWSS Upper Wawa Dam. The private firm had already secured all clearances for the project, while the DPWH had yet to secure complete documents. The Agriculture Department does not expect Typhoon Odette to have a big impact on agriculture output. Speaking to Businessworld, DA Assistant Secretary Noel Reyes explained that any blow to rice production caused by Odette was softened by the timing of the storm, which hit the Philippines after the start of a new planting cycle. That's why the department insists that the damage done by Typhoon Odette will not affect the fourth quarter and overall 2021 agriculture performance. However, the latest estimate for storm damage is around 362 million pesos, affecting nearly 13,000 farmers and fishermen across almost 23,200 hectares of land. The affected areas include Bicol, Western and Central Visayas, Calabarzon, Central Mindanao, Davao, and the Caraga region. The tourism industry also took a hit from Typhoon Odette. Not only have hundreds of flights been canceled, some hotels in the typhoon's path have also been heavily damaged. Just how bad will this delay the sector's recovery? Let's get answers from Benito Benzon, the executive director of the Philippine Hotel Owners Association. Good morning, Sir Bong. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, Jess, and thank you for having me in your program.
All right, sir. First, let's give us an idea just how many hotels in the Vismin area were affected. Can you give us a picture here, just as to the extent of the damage?
Well, two of the hardest hit areas, no, Cebu and Bohol, are where many of our member hotels are located. In Cebu, we have about 19 in the downtown Cebu area and about 7 in the Mactan area. And all of the hotels have been badly affected by the typhoon. In Bohol, we have 8 members, mostly in Panglao, and as in the case of Cebu, many of the properties were also heavily uh, destroyed, no, or at least devastated by the typhoon. So, this is quite a serious situation for us, you know, and we of course, extend our prayers and sympathies to all those who have been affected so far.
Okay, Sir Bong, you already at least have an idea, a total number here of the affected hotel members, at least from your group, or are we still trying to establish communication with some of your member hotels?
Well, FOA, the Philippine Hotel Owners Association, has about 308 members all over the country. And as I mentioned, we have about 26 in Cebu, and in Bohol. And over the last couple of days, we've been calling them one by one just to check on them, how the situation is, what they need. And for both Cebu and Bohol, the situation is very much very similar. No, they're running out of food and water. They're low on fuel. Communication is spotty. And this is something that we're addressing now. The FOA has launched a donation drive to help not only our members in the affected areas, but the other communities as well. So we've been working very closely with the OIC of NDRRMC, Karen K. Caballero. And today we will be consolidating the initial batch of items for donation, which will be shipped out on a Navy ship tomorrow. So right now, that's the priority of our group.
Mhm. Now, given that as well, for the heavily damaged hotels in those areas, we're talking Cebu, Bohol, and even Siargao. I mean, for one, airports also are affected. That has resulted in a number of flights being canceled. In fact, some are saying that operations will resume at least by February. For your member hotels, when do you expect them to operate again or recover from the damage brought about by Typhoon Odette?
We have received reports that some of them might temporarily close and or scale down their operations. You have to remember also that many of our member hotels have been housing quarantine guests. No? This is also part of our efforts to support the government, particularly OWA, in providing a safe and enjoyable stay for our returning OFWs. But with the impact of the typhoon on the operations of our hotels in Cebu and in Bohol, this will also affect the inventory, the number of rooms that will be made available to returning Filipinos. I think it's also important to keep in mind that many locals in the affected areas who have had no power over the last couple of days are now checking in some of the hotels because there's power, there's food and water supply.
Mhm. Given that, sir, I mean, pre-pandemic, the sector in a way is already on a path to recovery here. How is this going to slow down your bounce back?
It will definitely slow down the recovery efforts because the room inventory will be sharply reduced at least in the next several weeks. But the priority right now really is to assist the government agencies in the relief efforts. So what we're doing is we're monitoring the situation very closely. We're hoping that the recovery, will be realized. Early enough because we've already gained the momentum. No? The tourism and the accommodation industries have been on an upward trajectory over the last several weeks, owing to more relaxed interzonal guidelines. So we're hoping that the relief operations will be carried out very smoothly, and thereafter we can focus on the recovery of the industry.
But given that, are you still expecting to hit your targets for the year?
It's going to be very difficult to meet the targets now because many of the operations have, like I said, practically ceased operations or at least reduced their operations. But we've always been very bullish, when it comes to tourism in the industry, tourism in the Philippines rather. And we feel that 2022, despite the challenges that we're facing now, will still be a better year.
Okay. But originally, what were the targets that you were setting for 2021?
Well, we have to bear in mind that the the pandemic has affected revenue by about 80 to 90% over the last year and a half, and we're hoping to at least you know go back to pre-pandemic levels. Maybe not immediately, not in 2022, but at least start the recovery by 2022, so that we can go back to pre-pandemic levels either in 2023 or in 2024. That's the forecast that has been given by the tourism experts around the globe, and we're hoping that we'll be able to recover at the same pace.
Also, that's a more conservative outlook compared to other sectors. But at the same time, you have the detection, the third case of the Omicron variant. Is a sector fearing the worst here?
Well, we of course are closely monitoring the possible impact of Omicron on tourism and in the hotel sector, as we did in the case of Delta. But one thing going for the Philippines is that right now there's still a very strong demand or appetite for travel among Filipinos. Of course, maybe now is a very difficult time to do so because the focus should really be on the relief efforts. But once we get beyond the relief period, we're quite confident that domestic tourism will bounce back, and that the accommodation sector, the hotels and the resorts, will be able to operate in, normal capacity again.
All right. Thank you very much for your time this morning. Again, Benito Bengzon, Executive Director of the Philippine Hotel Owners Association. Thank you, Sir Bong, and stay safe.
Thank you, Jess.
And before we end our broadcast today, many of our kababayans in the provinces hit by Typhoon Odette have no food and no water. They have lost their homes, and some have lost loved ones. Let's make them feel the spirit of Filipino bayanihan. You may send your donations through the following channels now being flashed on your screen. Let's make them feel that through this pandemic, through this devastation, tuloy pa rin ang Pasko. And that's the first look into the business day this Tuesday, December 21, 2021. Catch Businessworld Live for the market close at 3:15 p.m. today. I'm Jess De Los Santos in VR1 News. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines.